Hey guys, it's Kelechi here for those of you who may not know. And this is just another session of us just talking and sharing. You know what I'd actually really like is to hear from you guys. For you guys to post in the comment section what your goals for this year is, especially when it comes to your relationship with God, or post whatever questions that you may have, post whatever it is that you are dealing with. It doesn't matter. I just want to be able to engage with the people that are listening to me. I don't want this to just become a thing of me just like talking at you all. So yeah, feel free to engage with me because I really would like to engage with you all. Yeah? Okay, good. So what are we going to be talking about today? I'm going to be sharing from one of my favorite books in the Bible, and that's the book of Ruth. And I'm just going to give a brief overview for those of you who may not be familiar with the story of Ruth. It's about this young woman who was from Moab, and she was married into this family, this Israelite family, and she lost her husband and her brother-in-law and her father-in-law, and she had to make the decision to stay in the land that she was comfortable with and familiar with, or go back to her mother-in-law's land. And she made the decision to go back with her mother-in-law, not knowing where she was going, not understanding, probably not even knowing the language that they spoke, not really understanding or really knowing fully their culture and how things worked, but still choosing to move ahead into this place of unknown, and just being blessed because of it, being able to be part of the ancestry line of Jesus, right? But today I'm not going to focus on that part. I mean, I love the very obvious love story that plays out between her and Boaz. But today I'm going to be focusing on a characteristic that shows up often when Boaz is spoken about, and that is of being their kingsman redeemer. And usually when I read the book of Ruth, I'm not just looking at the love story. I'm also looking at how God shows up over and over. His providence, his provision, his deliverance shows up constantly throughout the book, even though his name is not mentioned in the book. And there's usually like a, comparison between him and Boaz every time you read through the book, and you kind of see God in Boaz, right? So I looked up the meaning of the kingsman redeemer, and what it is a male relative. In that time, in the Hebrew culture, a kingsman redeemer was the male relative that came in and kind of took responsibility for a relative that was either in trouble or in danger, or who was in need. And what he would do would be to come in and provide salvation wherever that was needed, or provide resources if needed, or provide redemption. Let's say there was a property that this relative in need lost, right? And we can see a correlation to God. We can see how God is our kingsman redeemer, right? So in Ruth 3, which is what we're going to be focusing on, we see how Ruth engages with Boaz as their kingsman redeemer. And we see a couple of instructions that Naomi gives her on how to engage with him, and we're going to learn from that on how to engage with our kingsman redeemer and how to receive his provision. So going through that, we see that the first instruction that Naomi gives to Ruth is to wash herself and anoint herself with perfume, right? And what that brings to mind for me is consecration. Now, consecration sounds like such a big churchy word, right? But all it really means is to be set apart for God's use, right? Before any vessel can be used for whatever purpose, it has to be cleaned out of its impurities. It has to be decorated. It has to be prepared for use. And that is the same idea with us. It is God wanting to cleanse us and prepare us for his use. Now, this by no means signifies a need for perfection. Actually, no. It doesn't mean that God cannot use us if we're not perfect. He chooses us in that place of imperfection. But then, once he steps in, what does he do? He then begins the process of perfection and molding us and bringing us closer and beautifying us and cleansing us and bringing us closer to looking more like Jesus, right? And we see that embodied by Jesus while he was here on earth, where he would step into broken situations, engage with people who were broken, and then pour purpose into their lives and start to lead them into their destinies in God, and start to bring them into fulfillment of who he knew that they were. And that's essentially what this process of consecration, this process of perfecting looks like. It's God taking what we already have, meeting us where we are, but then beginning to walk us to who he knows that we are for his purpose. So just like Ruth had to undergo a washing and beautification process, we submit to that process with God. That is a way that we can engage with him as our kingsman redeemer. And then the next instruction that we see that Naomi gave to Ruth was that she needed to go low, right? And that, when going low, usually signifies humility. And for us, what that looks like is just recognizing our need for God. It's recognizing that we don't have it all together. We do not know everything. We do not have the pieces, and only God does. He has the pieces to the puzzle that is our life. And so submitting to him and going to him and knowing that our understanding, the ways that we do things, the ways that we are so used to looking at things, isn't the ideal, because we, at any given time, we're not able to see the entire picture. He does. So going low in humility before him is saying to him, okay, I know that you know way more than I do. I know that you have access to things that I do not have access to. So I'm going to just go ahead and submit to you, right? And then the third instruction that I saw that Naomi gave to Ruth was for her to lay at Boaz's feet and just wait for his directions on what she needed to do. And again, what comes to mind for me is that with God, even as we just sit with him in his presence and we sit at his feet, in coming to him in humility and saying, okay, God, I know that you know way more than I do. I'm going to sit here in your presence and I'm going to wait for you to tell me what to do, for you to give me directions on how to handle this area that I might have in need, this area that is a big puzzle for me, that I cannot handle on my own, that I cannot understand. And I would like for you to give me your instructions, give me your strategies, and I will wait to receive it before I move ahead. So consider me a type of Naomi right now, and I'm giving you guys these suggestions on how we can engage with our own kingsman redeemer. We can take a page from Ruth's actions, and we can, first allow God to take us through this perfecting and cleansing process without resisting him, even though it might hurt sometimes. coming to him with such humility of heart, and just knowing that his ways are higher than our ways and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts, and even when we don't understand, that we can submit to him, and then just laying in wait to hear what he actually has to say, instead of moving ahead of us. Moving ahead of him because we simply want to get things done the way that we want to get them done. You know? So I hope that was helpful. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.